Hi, everyone. Tanya Hertz here. Today, we're going to be talking about developing your skills as a leader. So let's go ahead and pull up those slides together, and we're just going to dive right into it. Perfect. Okay. So primarily when we're covering these slides on leadership development, it's looking at leadership from the perspective of somebody who is coming in to an existing organization as a leader, being hired for a position in which it's necessary that you are a leader, that you lead a team, and a lot of these same skills will translate to being a leader in an organization that you already work. So moving up within an organization, starting an organization yourself, right? Being an entrepreneur. A lot of these skills you transfer, but this particularly will be looking at coming into an existing company. So we're going to start with the first 90 days of being a leader in a new organization. Excuse me. And before you even know that you're hired, you'll want to start doing the research as far in advance as possible. You're going to want to be gathering your data, getting as much information together as possible, and then we're going to go through all the way to the end of the first quarter, or the third month in your position. And these are really, really critical times as a leader. You're setting the tone for your entire time in this position. So important. So we'll go through them each one by one, starting with that before you're starting. You're going to want to do your homework. Looks like I'm having some glitches with my video, so I'm going to turn off my video here. And so you should still be able to see the slides here. And no matter what, you're going to want to gather as much information as possible about the company that you're entering. You want go online. You'll want to look at their website. You'll want to look at the press, any press releases. Google the company, Google the industry, Google the division within the company. If you're working for a large organization, look and see at their big 5 social media platforms: the YouTube, the Twitter, the LinkedIn, the TikTok, the Instagram. Right, look at all their general look at all of their social media or online marketing platforms. Find out as much as you possibly can. And remember that you only have one chance to make that first impression, and make that first impression right. So read as much as possible, do your homework before starting that leadership position. That first day is critical. It's so critical. That's your first time being a leader. And it's what you do this day will have lasting ramifications throughout your time with this particular team. And you can fix mistakes that you make, but it's so much easier to start right. And I don't know if any of you have watched any of those shows on raising a dog or when you get a new puppy, but it's so important what happens that first day with the puppy. Same is true with a leadership team. That first day is so critically important. The most important thing you're doing that first day is you're doing meetings with your supervisor, with your colleagues, with your subordinates. And the meetings with your supervisor and your subordinates are the most important. And it's all about setting that tone. You want to establish yourself as somebody who is in a position of power, that you have authority, that you have the expertise. You want to be firm but fair. You want to be much stricter than you will actually be in the position. And by that I mean you'll want to seem like you're tougher than you actually are. It's always easier to get softer, to be more lenient and more lax, but it's very difficult to go from a lenient, lax leader to a strict leader. So go much stricter than you'll actually be on the job, and then ease up from there. Fake it till you make it. So dominance, power, confidence, all of these things can be. The real thing looks the same as the fake version. So no one can tell if you're faking it, right? Being a confident person in actuality or faking confidence looks identical to the outside world. So you definitely want to, if you're nervous, get over it, push that aside, and be as confident as possible on that first position in that first day. So on that first day, I wanted to go back one slide here. In that first day, when you're meeting with your subordinates, particularly, that's when you're going to want to be especially confident, strict, authoritative, more so than you'll be for the rest of the time. Now, meeting with your supervisor is also really important, and you'll want to convey that you also know what you're doing, that you're the kind of person that they can trust in that position of power. So it's really the purpose of that first meeting with the supervisor is twofold. One is to show him or her that you have the right stuff, and the other is to learn as much as you can from that first meeting. Now, be respectful of their time, be clear, concise, be direct, be confident, identify what the objectives are for your leadership position, what kind of metrics you'll be gathering, any important projects you'll be working on. Don't rely upon the leader to lead the meeting. Come with a handful of things that you want to take away from the meeting. Of course, you'll be learning a lot about their communication style, their leadership styles themselves, but you'll also want to be showing them what your style is, right? So in terms of logistics, find out what kind of schedule you'll be following, what kind of communication you'll be using. Write out some plans for those first 3 months. And find out what the leader thinks of the team now in terms of their strengths, their weaknesses, any people that you should be watching, etc. Now, the first really, it's all about meetings when you first start in a leadership position, and those first 2 weeks, you'll be wanting to meet with as many people inside and outside of the organization, those critical stakeholders, as possible, to learn, to develop those relationships, and to determine who will be your future allies inside and outside the organization. If you want to be successful in business, people need to like you. And so you will be showing people that you are trustworthy, that you're likable, that you'll be their ally in the organization. And so, yeah, so it's important to be honest, respectful, but also to be somewhat political in your first 2 weeks. All right, so those one-on-one meetings, you'll be having a lot of those group meetings, but then also one-on-one meetings. And those one-on-one meetings are really excellent at looking and seeing who those allies will be. You can find out what the people are working on, what the objectives are of each of the team members, who are the star performers. You can tell very quickly in a one-on-one meeting what are the people issues that are going on in the team. So really listen much more than you talk. This is, for those of you who are entrepreneurs, this is your customer discovery phase of the leadership position. So this is when you're learning, not so much teaching. And then look for areas for improvement, and ask them what they think about how you can be a better leader, what you can do to improve performance. Make sure that you're not just scheduling your one-on-one meetings with your team members who are going to be working for you, your subordinates, but also your peers and supervisors. And during your peer meeting, your colleague meeting, you should discuss challenges, objectives, their perspective on what the team was doing well before, what could be improved upon. Ask them about the star performers. They'll know the people, and even people who are good at faking it can't fake it for forever. And so you can find out who truly are the good people in your organization. You can ask your colleagues how you should be communicating with your boss. Remember, it is the subordinate who basically who changes to accommodate the leader, not the other way around. So if your supervisor likes to communicate over email, then you communicate over email. Don't try to impose your will upon your, the organization that you're entering into, especially with the leaders or your supervisor there. And then ask about logistics, how you actually get in touch with certain people, who does what, who's good at what in the organization. The first 2 months in this time period, this is the time period in which oh, and I should say this, I sorry, I got a little off track in my head. I was thinking, even though you should be building rapport during these one-on-one meetings, you really want to minimize your personal interaction with your direct subordinates during your first 2 months on the job. And this is because you really want to be making your decisions based on team performance, team goals, and not start falling into who you like, right? It's irrelevant who you like. It matters who's going to be able to get the job done. Okay, so in the first 2 month period, you should be gathering information on the direction, the structure, the staffing needs for different projects. You'll also want to look at benchmarking information from other companies, right? Who the key external stakeholders are, and meeting with them. And then, even consider meeting with the former team leader if possible. And in that third month, that's when you've developed a vision of the future, you can articulate how the team's going to win. You've identified the what, the why, the how of any needed changes, and you've defined a clear set of expectations for the team members. So you'll want to set up meetings again in that third month for at 2 meetings. You'll want to set up meetings with your entire team. Now you're done with all the one-on-ones, and you'll also want to meet offsite with your direct reports, so the people who are directly reporting for you. And you'll want to think about setting up your sub-teams now. Your sub-teams are the teams within the teams, and you'll want to start training your subordinates to be leaders themselves and to manage those sub-teams. And you'll have hopefully by now you will have identified the people who can handle being leaders themselves, and who can take on those sub-teams and run with them and get lots accomplished. Okay. So you'll also want to make sure that you are creating opportunities to get feedback from your subordinates. So make sure that you understand that just because you have an open door policy, it does not necessarily mean you will get effective, reliable, consistent feedback from your subordinates. You need to articulate that you want feedback. You need to tell them that they can bring you feedback, right? You need to be perceived as being approachable, sincere, and even consider doing surveys that are anonymous, and other types of other types of platforms that you can get real, true, honest feedback from your subordinates. And also remember that you should be a lifelong learner, and you can really affect your learning, your efficacy by taking, we call it a 10% stretch, taking a 10% stretch. So a 10% stretch is just as it sounds. It's stretching yourself on 10% of what you do. And usually a 10% stretch is enough to turn any leader from being average to exceptional, to being really, really good at what they do. So by stretch, we mean stretching yourself, doing something that makes you feel a little uncomfortable, that makes you worry that you might fail, right? Remember, in business, if you're not failing, you're failing. Because if you're not failing, that means you're not stretching, you're not trying, you're not putting yourself out there, trying things that you're uncomfortable with. So do that. Make sure that at least 10% of the time you're really pushing yourself to grow and learn and be better. Remember that when you're learning from others, you should not just be learning from your superiors, but also your peers, your mentors. You can learn just as much from people who are at your level or below you as you can from people who are above you. Always be open to learning, and you have a much higher chance of actually learning. It's a good idea to keep a journal of your leadership events, of things that happen to you as a leader, things that you notice, things that you've developed, things that you have done right and done wrong. I love reading back at my developmental plans, my GAPS journals. We're going to do one here together as a class, but they're great. They're a lot of fun to watch and go back through and see what you did right and what you didn't do right. It's also important when you're a lifelong learner to develop technical competencies. So technical competencies are the knowledge, skills, and abilities associated with the particular job, right, that you are, or industry that you're in. This is important because a lot of you will be getting, right now, you're probably getting degrees in management, and that's fine, but you need to have some technical competency as well. So that means that if you're working in a doctor's office, you need to understand the procedures that people come in and get in that physician's office. That means that if you're, I don't know, in an accounting firm, you understand accounting, right? You need to develop yourself and position yourself as an expert in the field. And this is really important because some of you won't be experts and won't have technical competence in that field. And that's not a good thing, because when followers have technical competence, they can have more power than you by having that expert power, because people know that they're amazing at what they do. So it can really undermine your power and your authority when you don't have technical competence. So you really want to make sure to build that. It's easier to lead when people perceive that you do have that competence. So how do you do that? Well, study, right? Make sure that you understand what it is that you do. Any chance that you can to learn more about that organization and working with the organization, take that chance. Work with mentors, work with advisors, build relationships. And building relationships isn't just going to help you to develop technical competencies. That's going to help you with everything you do in an organization. This is essentially mentorship, right? It's informal mentorship. It's critically important for success. And it's a good idea to have a relationship, like a mentor like relationship with your direct supervisor in the organization. And it will help you to understand what it is that they want for the company, for your position. And it can help just really build on that embeddedness that you have in the organization, and your chance of succeeding. Um, oh, so I'd said this before, but so building an effective relationship with supervisors requires that the followers adapt to the supervisor style, not the other way around. And so once again, we don't expect that the supervisor will bend to the way that we do things. We need to make sure that we're doing things the way that he or she wants. We can do this by clarifying the expectations about what our role is on the team. Don't expect them to tell everything to you, to know everything, and to be clear and concise and forthcoming with all of the information. If you need it, ask for it, and ask for it directly. In business, we just appreciate people who are to the point and don't beat around the bush. Right. Be honest, be dependable. If you say you're going to do something, right? And in terms of building those relationships with your peers, again, people need to like you in business. You need to build those relationships, those partnerships, those strategic alliances with your peers if you expect success. Now, research shows that if you want to be an effective leader, you will have strong alliances with your peers in the organization. I can't stress this enough. You need to have good working relationships if you want to be successful. And to build those, you can make sure that you have common, or recognize the common interests that you do have and the common goals that you have. And this is particularly important if you don't share the same maybe values, or if you're diverse on a very deep level, then it's really important that you focus on what you do have in common and not what you have in difference. And be understanding about what they are working on, what they're doing, and really, as much as possible, try to practice a theory why attitude in all of your relationships and all of your dealings in an organization. And just to remind you, if it's been a while since you've studied this, theory why leaders are leaders who understand that people are motivated by the work itself, and workers are not just working for a paycheck, right? There are intrinsic rewards that people have when it comes to working, and they work for a number of different reasons, but it's not just for a paycheck, right? So theory why leaders are much more understanding leaders, are leaders that are optimistic. They're optimistic. You know that there's intrinsic motivation to work, that people enjoy work, and that they can work autonomously, that they don't need micromanagement. That's going to help you. That's going to help you with your relationships. All right. So actually, we're going to stop right here, and I'll finish up in the next video. So talk with you soon.